when I'm like gothed up and like full makeup and like going out with him, people just stare at us like, what is this? It's very strange, and I love it.
Welcome to the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast, a peek behind the curtain of some of the most intimate conversations that people have with Ezra as an intimacy coach. Join us for a session already in progress.
We met at a speed dating thing at Sanctuary. Even though I wasn't really looking for a partner, but my partner at the time was, so I went with him. But yeah, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, I remember I had very different objectives. I was very aggressively looking for a partner. I had a list of like 20 some odd people to contact after that event.
Wow. I had none because I did not care.
What was really funny is that I'm so bad with names, but I'm really good with like information. And so I'd be like, oh, you like choking. I can't remember your name, but
I'm like that with faces. I'll remember your face to the day I die, but your name, unless we've had a legitimate conversation, it's going in one ear and out the other.
Yeah. And what a clusterfuck of an event that was, because it was like 40 people, 50 people that were just trying to shout next to the next person.
It was something, that's for sure.
I think I was so burnt out by the end of it that I was just like, what are you into? Like, let's get this over with. How would you describe your orientation?
I would describe it as evolving. She, her pronouns, that definitely doesn't fluctuate. She, her, it, that, actually. I'm gonna change that. She, her, it, that, for sure, 100%. In like very specific situations, do I enjoy it and that, with some nice dominant human. But I'm pansexual, newly pansexual, because being gay scared the crap out of me until I was like 22. So that's new.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like pan. I like omni, but not the typical definition. Like, I like omni in that, like, I see sexual energy radiating from all people, not in that I want to fuck everyone.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
So what does that mean for you? Is that like an objectification experience?
It's weird because I don't really like objectification. I don't do degradation or humiliation at all. But like when a very naturally dominant human just looks at me and goes, "Oh, it has a question," I will die inside. Like somebody that I obviously have like some sort of sexual intimate relationship with.
Sure. Not an invitation for any random person.
Yeah, no, you call me it and I don't know you, we're gonna have a problem. That is a little rude.
A little rude. Maybe it's a comment on your appearance.
Yeah. I don't really look like a human a lot of the times. My hair. What is it doing? Yeah, it's like all the way up right now.
Yeah, cherry red and like just eggplant purple on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like eggplant purple is my color. So
I love it. I made that color.
Didn't we once wear the same color accidentally?
Yes, and we took a picture together.
That was so good.
It's on my Instagram or FetLife, or it's on something.
And we were in the purple room.
And we were in the purple room. It's a great picture. I love that picture.
How do you identify like power exchange wise? Because you mentioned a little bit of dominant stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm a switch. So my energy really fluctuates depending on the person that I'm with. So if I am interacting with somebody who's naturally dominant, I become naturally more subservient. If I'm interacting with somebody who's naturally submissive, I become naturally more dominant. And I've had a new one recently with somebody who's a true switch, just like I am. And we switch back and forth all the time, and it is a lot of fun.
Just rolling the dice, see who goes first.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. He's a little bit of a brat, so it's entertaining.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, that's one of my piece of advice for like switch couples, because oftentimes they're switchy but like subleaning and like nobody wants to make the choice. So I say, well,
Yeah.
just use a die. Play a card game and who wins is the top, or play a dice game and find out who's on top.
Yeah, both of our energies naturally fluctuate between top and bottom
Hmm.
energy, so we just give and take a lot.
Is it like a power struggle sort of experience, or is it,
No, not really.
yeah?
There's really no struggle. It kind of just all happens naturally.
Hmm. And then like there's a sliding scale of like sadistic to sensual, not that you have to exist at one point on that spectrum, but where
Hmm.
would you say you are?
I'm somewhere as a top, I'm somewhere in the middle. Um, I would actually say I'm perfectly in the middle, where like I will do something very evil and then immediately like kiss your ass or something, it's I like a mixture of both as a top. As a bottom, I definitely lean more masochistic, so I enjoy like a sadist. Not so much the sensual stuff as a bottom. I wanna be used and abused and then laughed at a little bit, but not in a humiliating way, more in like a shut up, you're fine kind of a way.
That sounds like a fantastic time.
Oh, it always is.
So what does play look like for you?
Play for me looks like a lot of things, a lot of impact play as a top and a bottom. Um, I would consider myself a submissive, but not a dominant. I don't like doing the power exchange on the dominant side, or I should say on the DS side of that, like actual DS relationships. I don't like the dominant side of it. Too many rules to put in place, and I've barely keep my own life structured. So how am I going to keep somebody else's life structured? So DS wise, I lean towards more submissive. I've bounced from one DS dynamic potential consideration type things for the last like 7 years. Um, and play wise, as a submissive, am very servitude focused. I really enjoy, like making sure that your laundry is folded and put away before you come home from work, kind of a thing. And then for physical play, a lot of impact, so much impact. I wouldn't say too many floggers, but a decent amount of variety, if you will. I really enjoy impact play as a top and a bottom, floggers being my favorite for both top and bottoming. And as a bottom, I do a lot of blood play. So a lot of the scary stuff, a lot of needles and cuttings, and did a scarification ink rubbing on my arm that actually turned out really good. It's been a year now and it is still green, which I am very surprised about. I only do blood play with one person. We've been partners for 6 years now, which is nice. Um, so we have a good dynamic between the two of us, a lot of trust and love. Uh, there's a part of me that really enjoys scaring the crap out of people with the blood play thing. Done a couple things that people have been like, I don't ever want to see that again. And I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to ever again. I'll warn you next time.
Yeah, so the shock factor like adds to it for you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Definitely. When people are like, oh my God, how did you just do that? And I'm like, I don't know, but I did.
Yeah. So tell me, I think it's something we don't often hear a lot about, right? The blood play, and you've done some like hook suspensions as well, right?
Yes, I have. I have done 3.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about that experience, like somatically, like what are you feeling in your body as that's happening, or after that's happened?
Um, while it's happening, you feel a lot of pain when you're being lifted. As you're going up, it's very painful, and it's so painful that like your mind kind of just goes blank, and it's really hard to think about anything except that pain. And I'm really good at processing pain out of my body. and using it to like release emotions that are pent up. So for me personally, like I take that pain that I feel going up to release whatever problems I'm having in my life at the time, and to cry it out, to scream it out, to do whatever you have to do to get it out. But then it's out and then you're up. And when you're floating, you don't feel anything, no pain, no pressure, nothing. You just feel weightless. And for me, it's really peaceful. All the pictures of me, I look like I'm half dead or asleep. It's amazing. I try to do one once a year because it's hard on my body, so I don't want to do it too much. But it's like a reset, you know, like squeegee your brain.
The flush.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that was suspension, hook suspension. So how about like cutting or needle play?
Needle play varies from like person to person and like who I do it with, because I'll do needle play with a couple of people, but I only do cuttings with one person, my blood play partner. And needles are much easier, which is why I will do them with a handful of like trusted people that I know from the blood play community. And it could vary between like, I've gotten high as fuck from it, like just endorphin rush beyond belief, and you're just floating in a cloud. And then, you know, I've like cathartic releases, or, you know, like this is really pleasurable and painful all at the same time. But with the cuttings is normally a cathartic emotional release. The feeling of like the blood dripping down my body is like, I call them my gills. You know, they help me breathe, release emotions and breathe.
That's really interesting. It's a hard limit for me, so I'm gonna have
It's a
to take your
hard
word
limit
for it.
for a lot of people, especially with the scarring. A lot of
Yeah.
people say no scars, and I have hundreds.
Okay. Well, there you go. So what then do your relationships look like? You talked about a few different partners at this point.
Yeah, I have two play partners. And my blood play partner I've been with for just over 6 years. We have a great connection. Love that man to death. One of my closest friends. And we we met on FetLife. I put an ad out in a needle play group, and I was like, hi, I'm young and new and naive and I don't know what I'm doing. Who wants to teach me? And I was expecting to get like flooded with like weirdos, I use that term affectionately, wanting to stab me with needles. And I got one response, and it was him. And he turned out to be the sweetest man I've ever met, and the most sadistic man at the exact same time. And we just clicked and connected, and he taught me everything I know about blood play. And I only bottom to him. We don't switch at all, which is nice to have that like long committed submissive side. You know, it's really nice. And then I have a friend who bottoms to me. We try to play as often as we can. Hasn't worked out too well for us since we met, because I had surgery on my shoulder, was out for 6 months. But now that I'm back in the game, we're gonna try to play like every 2 months, you know, keep things frequent. We met at Sanctuary, and they have a really nice ass, and I was like, I want to beat this ass and get to know this human. So it was awesome, and we became like best friends, and I love that I can play with my friends and have a good time. And then I have a vanilla-ish relationship. Most of my like intimate long-term relationships can be more on the vanilla side, mainly because I have a rule: I date outside the community. Just because I don't want awkwardness or perceived impropriety with my position at Sanctuary. So I tend to date outside the community. Play partners within, obviously, because how else are you going to find them? But dating wise, I will date outside the community. And he's very sweet and way kinkier than he knew, but I knew because I can smell it on you. And I know how to pick them. I can find the kinkster in a crowd after 10 minutes of conversation. So yeah, we have a lot of fun. We're very switchy and he's very bratty, and I've never liked brats, but for some reason his brattiness to me is so endearing and just absolutely precious beyond belief. It's really cute, and I kind of understand why people find brats adorable now. It's so like, I don't know how to put words to it. It's just so cute. But we call it a situationship. We're neither of us are in a rush to put a label on it or anything like that. We're just kind of going with the flow of it. I am poly, he is too, which is very nice that it worked out that way. And our polys are exactly the same, which makes it even better. So it'll be fun to explore this, whatever it is, situationship with him. And yeah, I don't really have any other like intimate relationships at the moment. I am hopefully looking for some sort of regular play partner that's like close by to me, which would be nice so I could like regularly play, but I need Sanctuary to reopen, you know? It's where all my people are.
Yeah. Yeah, don't we all?
Yeah.
It's exciting. Yes. So the new sort of outside of the community romantic-ish non-labeled relationship is the one where you're both switches. Is
Yes.
that right? Okay.
Yes. We are both switches, and it is, I thought it was going to be like a confusion struggle, but it is not. We ebb and flow very, very well with each other.
Yeah, I'm very happy for you. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, he's something special. And I made him take the BDSM.org test, which was really funny. And all of our things like match up perfectly, which was really cute. Like 100% masochistic, 100% sadist. We're both 100% non-monogamous. We're both 100% switch. And I was like, yes, high five, we rock.
So I'm gonna laugh if I see this person and they are like shaped like you and colored like you and like
they are not
like you.
They are the most vanilla ass looking motherfucker that I have ever dated in my entire life since like high school. Yeah, like when we go out in public and I'm like, I'm not very gothy right now because I got up at 3 a.m. and basically I'm wearing my pajamas. But when I'm like gothed up and like full of makeup and like going out with him, people just stare at us like, what is this? It's very strange. And I love it. I love the looks of like, are they related? Are they dating? What is this? It's like the cliche of like goth girl and golden retriever boy. It's
Sure.
Very funny.
Or like, you know, he's a customer at rentagothgirl.com or something.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It's really funny.
If you like the Ask Ezra podcast, then let me know. Comment on your favorite episode. Let us know what you enjoyed or what you'd like to see more of.
So here's a tougher question. So what kind of conflicts tend to come up in your relationships?
So in this current one, we have had no conflicts because it's still very new. We spent a long time in the honeymoon phase. And we're both very similar, so we think very similarly, and everything so far has just been a breeze. In previous relationships, me trauma responding to something is usually the only thing that will cause a conflict. Because I don't do yelling. If you yell at me, I will most likely never talk to you again. So, and I tell everybody that, friends, partners, whatever, parental units, that from the beginning, that if you yell at me, I will walk away because we're adults, not children, and yelling unless I'm about to die is unnecessary. And normally, yeah, the trauma responding is the only thing that will cause a conflict because it's illogical and irrational. And it'll take me sometimes a couple minutes to realize that it's happening. And I have not recently, yay me, lots of therapy and good meds. But I have like stormed off and let it simmer. But it's always something silly, looking back, it's always something silly that doesn't really make a lot of sense, an offhand comment that I inferred weird and just trauma response to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that something that you like have a conversation about ahead of time? Like you mentioned, like, don't yell at me or I'll walk away and never talk to you. But do you have like a conversation about how these things come up and they're like not about the other person? Or is that something that's kind of too hard to handle?
Yes, I have those kinds of conversations. So I am very immediately upfront with all of the things that are perceived faults of mine. Like I struggle with depression, I struggle with anxiety, and I went through an abusive relationship. So like I have a lot of fucked up shit going on in my head sometimes. And I'm always very upfront with that so that if I do trauma response, I can take a breath and be like, I deeply apologize. That had nothing to do with you and everything to do with my terrible ex. And I'm not saying that you are similar. I am just feeling triggered and projecting right now. And I'm at a place, luckily, where I can verbalize that pretty quickly after a trauma response or catch the trauma response before it comes out of my mouth and like go take a minute, or explain, hey, we need to change the topic for like 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I need to calm my body down so I don't have a trauma response. And I date older than myself in hopes of finding somebody who's emotionally mature so that they understand that and they can handle me being like, hey, I need a minute. Can we pause this conversation and come back to it in 5 minutes after I like look at some funny cat videos or go take a walk around the block or something like that?
Yeah. Well, good for you. I think a lot of people your age would really struggle with that level of clarity and communication.
Yeah. A lot of people do. It's generally why I don't date other 26-year-olds.
Yeah. Well, and to put things in perspective, Sox, when I was 26, I married a vanilla woman and moved across the country and bought a house and had a baby and said, who needs sexual satisfaction or self-acceptance? So
yeah,
you're like 10 years ahead of me.
it's all the trauma and therapy.
Hey, I have the trauma too. So, anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't do therapy early enough. I think
that's
maybe
the
that's
key.
it.
That's the key is not letting the trauma simmer.
Yeah. Yeah. You let the trauma simmer, then you can, it's like
It's much harder to go backwards. Yeah, it's much harder to go backwards. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I almost immediately went into therapy.
So, but what I'm hearing is that the way that you play with people and the relationship dynamics and all of that isn't really like the source of the conflict in your relationships.
No. I draw very clear boundaries with people on what they want to do, what I want to do, play wise, sexual wise. And I'm always upfront with, I will need play partners. And that is something that you have to be okay with. And if you are not, then we are not meant to be together. And checking in a lot, like, hey, I want to play with this person. Is that okay with you? Or are you in a space? Not, is that okay with you? I don't ask that. I say, are you in a space where you can handle me doing that with another person? And it helps that I'm in therapy and that I can like practice having difficult conversations before I actually have them. But my conflicts don't come from my play. It doesn't come from outside relationships, from my primary relationship. It mostly comes from trauma responses. Pretty much all comes from trauma responses, and the crap that I had to go through floats around in my head.
Yeah, I hear you. You mentioned your position at Sanctuary. And when we say Sanctuary, we mean Sanctuary Studios in Los Angeles. What is that role? What do you do at Sanctuary?
I am Sanctuary's head DM. DM stands for Dungeon Monitor, for those who do not know. No, it is not a dungeon master. I wish it was. That would sound so much cooler than a hallway monitor. But it's basically Kink Security. I run their security team. That's what I normally call it, is a security team. I've been doing it for 5 years, in charge for 4 years, and I love it with my entire being. It is my favorite job that I have ever had. It's pretty phenomenal and very therapeutic for me, especially in the beginning. Now it's not as therapeutic, not in a bad way, but just in like I don't feel as traumatized as I used to. But that giving back to the community that helped me through my abusive relationship and who was there for me, and then protecting people who are in potentially, very rarely, bad situations, but being able to go, hey, that doesn't look right. Let me check in with you. Are you okay? It was really just healing. Being in the submissive side of a DS dynamic that was awful, and having nobody help, the act of helping someone, even if they're not in a bad spot, even if like they're just having an off day or something and shouldn't have played but decided to anyway, and they go into sub drop, like helping out in a dungeon in that way of protecting people is one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
Awesome. Yeah. And we worked together in that capacity for a little while. I think I was a dungeon monitor when you were promoted to head dungeon monitor.
Yeah, about that time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's when we wore the same color. That's that time that we both wore purple and took a picture in the purple room. Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. And one of the things I love about that job is it has allowed me to be a better read of people, right? Like, because it's your job to like case the situation and like watch for potential problems and see who's having a hard time and see who feels like lost and abandoned. And that was my favorite part of the job, was like seeing that person who's like wide-eyed and like still, and like it's their first time, and you get to go up and be like, hey, do you come here often? And they're like, this is my first time, like knowing full well that was going to be their answer, and be like, well, welcome. Can I help you get oriented? Can I give you some tips? Can I give you a tour? Like, me now, so now you don't know nobody. That was one of my favorite parts of the job.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part. That was kind of how I became a DM. I had no friends, like at all.
I don't believe that for a second.
No, seriously, like, so I entered into the scene, not the community, because there's a difference. I entered into the scene, very naive, got into a DS dynamic that was very bad, and then almost immediately after that flipped sides and got into another consideration DS dynamic, where I was the dominant because I guess my brain needed to not be a submissive for a while, and that was when I realized I was a switch. But like, after I ended things with my submissive, I had no friends, but I still wanted to go to Sanctuary, and so I just kind of like hung around the old club manager until like he was like, hey, you are alone a lot. How are you? Are you okay? And we became friends. And then eventually I became a DM and started working at Sanctuary. And that's one of my favorite things about Sanctuary is that our staff will always be like, okay, you're alone a lot. Are you good? Do you need a friend? I'll be your friend. Like, I would love to be your friend. And that brings me joy. A lot of joy.
Yeah, for sure. That's my favorite part. My second favorite part is walking up to people and saying, "Excuse me, sir, you cannot masturbate solo. You need to be part of a scene."
I literally, like 2 days ago, just had a guy message me on FetLife asking me if it's okay to solo jerk off at Sanctuary when it reopens. And I was like, no. Politely, no.
Depends on the
Respectfully,
party.
no.
The
Yes, technically Anarchy, potentially that is allowed. I personally don't like it and would love to have a chat about that.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, and I don't make the rules for that party, so.
Yeah.
But nobody does it, you know? It's so rare. It's so rare. At Sanctuary, at least.
I love it, though. I get giddy. I go, oh, I'm about to ruin this guy's night.
I know, right? You're like, and you can tell they're like so close, and they're just like, you have to stop. Nope.
How's your grandma?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Sox, thank you so much. Do you have anything coming up? Anything that you want people to be aware of?
I personally don't. When Sanctuary reopens and Anarchy comes back, I will be doing performances like every couple months. I want to do like 2, 3 a year because I miss it. I really do miss it. I love performing. It was so much fun back before I became head DM when I had more free time. But I don't have anything coming up because Sanctuary's closed. What am I going to do?
So that's what you have coming up, Sox, is
yes,
Sanctuary reopening. Yeah, and of course you'll be a part of DomCon in May.
Yes, DomCon in May. I can't wait for it. Both DomCons are some of my favorite times of the year. You know, LA is great. I get to see all of like my out of state, out of city friends and all the pros that I never get to see except at DomCon. So that's always really fun. And then New Orleans over Halloween, which is just epic because who doesn't want to be in New Orleans for Halloween?
Recovering alcoholics.
Very true. Yes, very true. Actually, no, I know a lot of people who are in NA or AA who, I mean, we have a recovery meeting at DomCon.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can totally be in AA and come to DomCon New Orleans. Yeah, it's a very nice recovery meeting. I went for the first time last year. It was very, very cool. But I'm so excited for DomCon New Orleans. Even more so now that I started driving there instead of flying. So bomb.
I went to the recovery meeting, not being in recovery, but just not understanding what it was about. And I was like, oh, it's early morning. It's after a party. Like it's, recovering from the night before, right?
It's a hangover meeting.
Yeah. No, it's not. No, it's not. And I was like, deer in headlights. I'm just here for support.
That's really funny. Yeah, I'm 6.5 years sober. So I finally decided that I would wake up early and go to it. Yes, thank you. Yay me, 6.5 years sober. Not completely sober though. So if anybody sees me drinking, that is fine. I never had a problem with alcohol. I always clarify that because people be like, but I've seen you take shots of tequila. I'm like, yes, we are friends, tequila and I.
Okay. And then if people want to get involved, people want to go to DomCon, people want to go to Sanctuary, what do they do?
Well, Sanctuary has a website, which I don't believe we will be changing, even though the name doesn't make sense anymore. It's sanctuarylax.com. You can find all of our announcements there, sign up for our newsletter there. If you have any questions that you want to direct to me, I am on FetLife, MissSox, SOX. I'm very easy to find. There's no underscores or dashes or numbers or anything, just MissSox, and it's SOX.
And is it MIS or M? Is it MISS?
MISS.
Yeah.
Yes, MISS SOX. People find me without me even telling them my username. It's just very simple and straightforward. I wanted it to be that way so people could find me easily. My FetLife is a little scary with the blood play, so if we become friends on there, you will see many a blood play pictures. Just warning you, in case you're a little woozy.
And then for DomCon?
DomCon has its own website, domcon.com. That's a mouthful. But there are newsletters about LA and New Orleans. Obviously, we're not sending out newsletters about New Orleans quite yet because it is in October. But hopefully soon we will be, once DomCon LA comes and happens. But yeah, there's a lot of information on those websites.
Wonderful.
And you can always message me and ask me questions.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, Sox.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thanks for watching the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast. Support our show at patreon.com/AskEzra. Join us at the personal growth tier and receive a special thank you on the next podcast episode. A very special thank you to both Sarah Nash and Deb Matson for being Patreon supporters at the personal growth tier and helping make the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast possible.